Yes, concerning winter, I would say that in natural attention, there is no introversion and there is no extraversion. So we should become familiar to natural attention, which is completely natural, effortless, without any movement. No movement within, no movement outside, just being. So each time that there is a movement of introversion, it means that there is a kind of movement of refusing. And in the movement of extraversion, there is a movement of grasping. So is it possible to be between, to stay between both, just here? So when our body mind is completely relaxed, our senses are open, they are quiet. There is no refusing of senses, there is no attachment to senses. That is the meaning also of natural meditation, which is not an action in order to go somewhere. There is nowhere to go in reality, Where do you want to go? In order to be, you don't need to go. So we have really to explore what is beingness, what does it mean in our direct experience. It does not belong to our body, to our mind, to our personality. It belongs only to itself. And usually there is, of course, a confusion between being and our body mind. But being is beyond our body mind, is the knower of the body mind. And the knower of the body mind is beyond the body mind. So when we ask who is the knower of the body mind, the attention which was outside, directed toward outside, return to itself. Return to its basis, basis. A thought is not the reality. A thought is just a thought. It's a mental representation of something, but it is just a mental representation. It is useful at a certain level, but at the level of beingness, it is useless. From moment to moment, there is no past and no future. And the idea of past, the idea of future is not the past and is not the future. It's not, it's only the idea of past and the idea of future. And also the idea of present, the present moment is not the present moment. It's the idea of the present moment. So like this, we see the limits of the thinking process. And the light which enlightens the mind does not belong to the mind. The look which looks at the mind does not belong to the mind. So the mind is only an object of perception. Like the body, it's only an object of perception. But who is the perceiver? That is a good question, you know. If we look for the perceiver, we don't find it because we look it as an object. But the perceiver is not an object. And we don't know what is the object, you know. When we perceive something, we don't know what is this something. We know just the perception of this something. But the perception of this something is not something. Cannot grasp a perception. It's ungraspable. For that reason, we could compare the waking state to the dream state, you know. How could we be sure that we are not in a dream now? When we are in a dream, it's the same reality. Sometimes consciousness is compared to a mirror or a blank screen, you know, in which the world reflects itself. And in our experience of being a mirror, you know, there is no attachment to the reflection which come and go inside myself as a mirror. My nature of mirror is always free. It does not depend on anything. And body mind is only a reflection in my nature of mirror. And also when we speak about the word, it's only a reflection within the mirror. Where is it? The thought of the word or the concept of the word is not the word, is only the concept of the word. In the natural observing, there is no movement, there is no grasping. Observing, listening, there is no grasping. The grasping comes from our psychological mind, from the fear, the need to find a kind of security. To fix that which cannot be fixed. Being is nowhere. You cannot say it is here or there. Nowhere and everywhere. So we have to really to see the difference between the beingness and our body mind. So we can be conscious of something, but could we be conscious of consciousness? We can be consciousness, but we cannot be conscious of consciousness. In consciousness, there is oneness, there is no division. When my mind says, I am this or I am that, it creates division. But in the silence itself, there is no division. There is no mind. Silence is free from thinking. It has no beginning, it has no end. Thinking has a beginning and has an end. It's timeless. So there is no need to maintain our body mind in a state of stress. In many moments of life, there is nothing to do, nothing to think, nothing to say. So the body mind can become completely silent. And when it is needed, there is a movement, the movement in the body mind when it is needed. When the situation asks for an action. Otherwise, the body mind can remain silent. The effort to be silent is a violence. Natural silence is effortless. It is always present. It is a background of all activities. Activities are a movement within silence. Like the wind, which is a movement within the sky. And when we interact with people, in the daily life, we have to see from where our talk is coming from. Does it come from a state of reaction, or does it come from the natural silence? It has not the same taste. So we could know the difference between an action or a talk which comes from the reaction and the same action or talk which comes from silence. It has not the same perfume, the same vibration. And when we speak about right speaking or right acting, it means a direct expression of silence. And extension. A reaction is a contraction. So when there is a reaction, there is a need to listen to it, to completely accept it. And maybe at one moment it will vanish by itself.
Jean-Marc,
Yes?
could we could we say that the only truly free speech comes from silence?
Could you repeat, please?
Could we say that the only truly free speech comes from silence?
Yes, but we have to be aware because sometimes we say that we are very spontaneous and we have a free speaking, but it could also come from a state of reaction, of discomfort.
Yes.
So we have really uh, to feel from where it comes from, you know. True speaking or true acting, really, it's like the breathing of silence. And in this expansion of natural silence, there is no tension, there is no fear. When the expression comes from a reaction, there is always a fear which is here. Maybe unconscious, but there is a fear, a need to obtain something or a fear to lose something, which does not exist in the free expression of the being. In the free expression of the being, there is no waiting for, there is no longing. If there is a longing, it means that there is a psychological implication, involvement. It's not a problem, but it should be seen, you know, to recognize the personal or psychological involvement in speaking and acting. If we listen to our body, we will feel that our body is tensed, under tension. It's a sign of a personal involvement. Maybe we could speak about an impersonal involvement. It means that it's the silent being which takes the form of uh, an action and a talk, you know. And like good musicians, we could make the difference between the direct expression of beingness and the expression of our psychological need, psychological mind. And like this, there will be an elimination, spontaneous elimination. Elimination of what true acting and true speaking is not.
Salut Jean-Marc.
Hello.
Une question, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
It's a little complicated, so I apologize to everybody. But my understanding is that we may say that the knower of the three states, sleeping, waking, and dreaming, the knower remains a subtle object, carrier in Kashmiri Shaivism, as opposed to karyatita, that without quality or objective limitation or localization. And we use sort of words like vision and hearing to describe an unconditional or uncontrolling receptivity. The true subject is free of qualities, is silence. But the subtle object that is the knower, would you say that corresponds to the subtle body or the energetic body?
When you look for the witness, you cannot find it. Because when we look at something, we look at an object. But the witness is not an object. So we cannot find it. And when we completely accept that we cannot find the witness, at this moment there is witnessing. Objectless witnessing. But if our mind transforms the objectless witnessing into something, it becomes an object. But before this movement, it is objectless.
I guess what's behind my question, or maybe the real question, is I think that we often privilege the idea of listening or receptivity or vision or observing, which is in truth an expression, un prolongement of consciousness, an expression of silence, over action that is an extension of silence also. But for silence itself, the two are the same. They're just extensions. But maybe it's somehow easier to talk about observing, listening, but for consciousness itself, the listening is an expression of consciousness, but it's in the same way that action that's a direct free expression from silence without any weight in it is as well. Is that? It's easier for us to find a contrast by talking about listening, but it's not really different from acting that's spontaneous from silence.
Yes, in listening, there is nobody who is listening. There is listening, but no one who is listening. There is observing, but no one who is observing. So observing, listening points to the pure subject, the pure beingness. We can only be that because we are that from moment to moment, but we forgot that we are that. So it's like remembering, yes.
But listening is an expression of beingness.
We could say that it's an expression of beingness, or that is beingness itself, a function of beingness.
Yeah, but true acting is also a function of beingness.
Yes, it's a function of beingness. Yes,
yeah.
It's a movement within the unmoving.
So in my understanding, the last bit, and then I'll leave the space, but the sort of practices of discrimination and negation, knowing what we're not, other ways of nettoyer le terrain, other approaches, perhaps take us away from our control and our involvement in the foreground, maybe to closer to the expression, the sort of the subtle object witness, but then the movement of the attention turning back to silence and dissolving into just presence, just beingness is something that happens just by grace. It's a spontaneous movement. But first, there has to be a sort of detachment from our involvement in the world. That's the sort of.
That sounds true.
Yeah.
We are silence itself. So we are that. Nothing else, you know. That is our true identity. And our relative identity is to be someone. But our true identity has no form, is formless. It's timeless. And we cannot teach what we are. We can teach what we are not, but we cannot teach what we are.
Thank you.
You are welcome. When we say I observe something or I listen to something, it's the same to say I am conscious of something. So consciousness, listening, observing, it's the same reality. It comes from the same no place. Usually we say that we are conscious of something, but could we be conscious of consciousness, you know? Could we listen to the listening? Could we observe the observing? So at this point, there is a stop in our mind. And our mind is absorbed within silence, within presence. The presence, the silence is a container of the thinking process. So the thinking process comes out from the container and resolves in the container. And when the situation is completely accepted, you know, there is no more resistance. There is no more defense. There is space and vacuity. Acceptance does not come from our mind. Our mind never accepts. Acceptance comes from the global being. It's natural from the perspective of the global being. Each manifestation, phenomenon is naturally accepted, it's an expression of itself. Like the mother who accepts whatever is a child is doing, because it's an expansion of herself. So acceptance brings our mind to zero point, to the point where there is nothing to think. And when you completely accept someone or a situation, you don't think anymore about it. The acceptance frees, liberates from the thinking process. In the acceptance, there is no question of why. There is no why. Why is usually a sign of refusing. Why are you like this? In reality, we ask this question because we don't accept the other one or the situation. If there is a complete acceptance, there is no why. Things are just as they are. That's all. This moment is just as it is. That's all. How it could be different. Our mind creates comparison. Our memory creates comparison. But in the unity with the present moment, there is no comparison. There is nothing to compare with. We could only be one with the present moment. We cannot think about the present moment. It's no more the present moment. It's a memory.
Jean-Marc,
Yes.
it is not possible to make oneself accept. Somehow it must happen spontaneously.
Yes, you are right, because I would say that acceptance should be understood as the death of the refusing. It's only that, when there is no more refusing, there is acceptance, which is there always, but it reveals itself at the moment where the refusing is dead, the habit to refuse. So if there is no refusing, there is no problem. Life becomes simple. Refusing is based on a belief, that things could be different as they are. but it is only a belief. You don't need to believe your belief. Belief is a conclusion created by our mind. Is it possible to live without any conclusion?
Our mind always is looking for, well, my mind is always looking for a conclusion. That is a problem.
It's just a quest for security. But when you look at that deeply, you will see that the conclusion is a false security. And in the non-conclusion, there is openness, and the openness is true security. Facing the unknown. What does it mean from moment to face the unknown? Complete acceptance of the unknown. That the next moment will never be known. So if you are really sure of that, you don't need to think the next moment. So it's a lot of energies which are not wasted, which come back to the presence. A lot of energy are spent for thinking the future or the past, It takes a lot of energy. But for being what we are in reality, it does not need any energy. Because being is not a movement. Movement is necessary to go somewhere, but being is not somewhere. It is nowhere. So you don't need energy in order to go to nowhere. You cannot go to nowhere. You can go somewhere, but you cannot go nowhere. Okay,
I speak at
Martin.
all.
Martin, it seems that the time is over now.
It is.
It seems that the time is over.
It's flown.
We are timeless, but the time is over. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Take care.
Au revoir.
Thank you. Take care. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Merci
Thank you,
beaucoup.
Jean-Marc.